Okay, in this session we're going to be covering sketches for SolidWorks. And what I'm going to do is go up here and open up that template that we created for machine, inch, ANSI, and I'm going to leverage that. We're now in our template. We know we're in ANSI standards using inch dimensions, and we're at 3 decimal accuracy, and we've set our template up. I'm going to go up here to Command Manager, and we're going to look at some of these sketch commands within here. Now, whenever I want to do a sketch, I need to actually click on Sketch, and it's going to want to leverage a plane. So a plane are things like this where I have front, top, and right, or down the road we'll learn to create more planes. So what I'm going to do is say Sketch, and I'm going to pick this front plane from this area right here. Now I'm drawing on the front plane. I see my origin right here, and the first thing I want to do is maybe draw a line. So if I come up here and I draw a line from this point, you can see it snapped and it banjoed to that point. I'm going to hit the escape key here. If I'd hit line and just move it around the screen, that's where it snapped to that point. It has a little concentric symbol showing it's going from the origin there. If I just move up and around, if I just move over here, it's going to pick up what we call an inference line. And that inference line is just showing that it's radiating from the origin coming up vertical. And I can tell it's vertical because just right to the right lower portion of the pencil there on the screen, there is a vertical line there. If I was to just move down here and I'm just moving the mouse, it's putting an inference line coming from the origin, and on the bottom right I can see a nice little horizontal line. So let's go ahead and bring it from the origin, and this is called banjoing. I'm banjoing the line out. I'm going to snap it where it's going to just move here and it's going to come horizontal. It's got that nice little horizontal symbol, and I'm going to hit that on there, and that's going to be nice. I'm going to hit escape because at this point I want to talk about the colors of lines. This line is blue, and if I look at it, it's blue, and there's a minus sign here. That means that sketch is not defined. If I was to grab on the end of this line here, I can change the length of it. Okay, so it's not defined. Oh, I need to get out of that. So what I need to do to define that line that is blue right there is to come in and put a dimension on that. I'm going to come up here and hit Smart Dimension, and it's going to let me grab that line, and I'm going to put my dimension right here, and I'm going to type in 3, for example. Okay. Now that 3, I'm going to leave this dialog box up, also can be changed by using the arrows up here, and it's changing on 100,000ths increments there, or I can change this wheel down here. Okay, so I can bring it back to 3 right there just by using, if I don't like that, and that wheel's kind of hard for me to use, there's my 3-inch. Now there's some other nice things we have on this dialog box. Every line or entity is going to have a name. This is D1 on Sketch 1. Later on in other episodes we may talk about how to leverage these in terms of equations. I'm not going to accept or save this. I'm not going to cancel it. Sometimes I need to rebuild that. I could regenerate that. I could come in here and flip the direction, the meaning of that line if I wanted to. I'm going to leave it as I originally had. This is where I can change the scroll box increments. I could type new ones in here and make which one I want default. Again, I can do that same thing up here in the options for this document and save it in my parent template. So if I wanted something at 100,000ths, 10,000ths, and 1,000 increments, I can now pick those from a menu right there and change that and dynamically change the model or the line. The other last thing we want to point out here is this neat little icon right here is mark dimensions to be imported into a drawing. Why is that important? It's very important because when I do a drawing in the sketch and I'm designing this and I'm putting dimensions on there, more than likely I'm dimensioning it as critical dimensions and how we're going to manufacture this part. So for instance, this 3-inch dimension, I would want to see that come across on the detailed drawing. So if I import this part file into a detailed drawing, there's an option we'll learn that I can import the model items and it will bring those dimensions across. So I don't have to redimension the objects that I drew. I can import those. So sometimes we unselect that due to the fact that we're going to have construction lines and maybe have construction dimensions that we don't want to import, and we just use those for model generation. And so I would unselect it, but that I'm going to import it in. So I'm going to go ahead and accept that dimension. Why it's still selected here on this, it's kind of blue here, meaning that I'm still on that dimension. It's going to have some stuff over here where the feature tree typically is. My feature tree is still here. It's just right there is my feature tree now. So when I'm in this, I can see there's the text for this dimension, the value name, primary value name. I can also see how many decimal places I want. If I want to go 5 decimal places, I can change that and override the default of the system. I can put what kind of tolerance I want. If I want a limit dimension where I have the maximum and minimum size that part can be, I can do that. I can come in here and say that maybe I want plus 10 thousandths minus nothing. And you can see it's updated over here on the drawing as well as we're doing this. We also have the options to come in here and change it as a reference, a marked up for drawing. We can type inside of here. We can type all these pre-done type commands are going to leverage and drop in here. And you'll see us from time to time changing our dimension text as we go there. I can also put dual dimension and have metric and inch dimensions on the print if I wanted to. So I'm going to accept that. I have that line there. Now we talked about construction lines. Construction lines are right here. They're known as center lines. So if I came in here and drew this line, for example, I'm going to hit escape there. That is a construction line. I could not extrude that or do anything, but I can do things like revolve things around it, locate features and other entities about that line. If I wanted to change this line to a construction line, in that dialog box, it's going to have, when I click on a line, I can change it to construction as well. And so that's going to be really powerful. Sometimes we make a line infinite, and you'll see that when we get into swept or revolved sections. We will do some of that. So I'm going to go ahead and accept that line property. I'm leaving that as a solid line that's defined. This is undefined. Now, we always like to make arcs and circles. So I can come in here and say draw a circle and pick a point and pull it out. And again, I can put dimensions on this circle and have that out there. And I can say this is a 2.5 diameter circle. Again, I've got the same dialog box on here. Notice it knows it's a diameter, so it put the diameter symbol on there, and I didn't have to do that. That's what this mod diameter is right there. So if I wanted to put 2 of those on there, I could actually come right here and put 2 on there, and it has that same symbol. Or I can come in here and delete that off. And now I just have 1 back on there. So that's how we do a circle. Now a neat command is when I'm in the line command and I am drawing lines. So here I am just banjoing a line around. And I want to go to the arc command. You notice I can make multiple lines coming off here if I wanted to. And let's say that I wanted to make an arc. All I got to do is go back to the center, pull off, and look at there. There's an arc feature right here. And it's showing inference line there. That way I know that circle, that arc has 90 degrees, which is a full quadrant representation. And I can put that on there. So, and then it goes right back to the line command. So that is a neat way that I can come in there and draw simple lines. Now, if I want to come in here and draw a rectangle, I can do from a center, which is going to maybe I want to pick it from that point. It's showing it's concentric about that point. And I can banjo out and have a really nice rectangle coming out. I can also do rectangles from corner to corner. So a lot of this, you're just going to have to come in here and play with these different commands. You have the slot command. That's a nice one where I can come in here and say, here's a line, and maybe I want a certain feature on there. Again, as you're doing things, you may want to be putting dimensions on there. I have a nice polygon tool that I can come over here and create polygons. And again, you can change things as to the number of edges you want, the parameters on that, the inscribed circle size. You can change all these features within that. So that's really handy in drawing bolt heads and such. The other thing I have is a spline tool. A spline tool is going to pick points about a point, a line, and it's going to curve fit it. And there's different techniques. Again, this is just an entry into the sketching tool. And you notice anytime I hit escape, it's going to finish out. And there is my spline. I can always grab a control point and move that line around and curve fit that nice free-flowing curve on this. You do have an ellipse tool that you can come in here and draw ellipse type features out. I can come in here and just do a simple radius. If I wanted to fill it, let's say this to this, I can pick this and this. It's going to put that radius on there, and I can increase the size of that fillet. Now, keep constrained corners. I can do that, or I can remove those constrained corners, and it's going to remove those off right there. And you notice it put the radius on there as a detailed dimension there. So this is going to be a neat way to do a lot of nice drawings. I can come in here even and put points. Sometimes we want to put a point on a drawing, and so there would be a point. And So I can come in and do text. Text is going to be located right here, and it's going to allow, it has a call out here for curves. So if I pick that curve, that spline, it's going to fit that text along there. So I can type in Oklahoma in here, and you can see it spreading out on this. I can center it out on that curve. It's going to locate around in there. I can change if I want it to be top or bottom on this. I can change the order. So if I want to reverse the text, I can do that. I can come in here and make it bold, italicized. I can also override the fonts. This is going to be a nice feature where you come in here and override the font, and you can pick different fonts and even change the height to a numerical height. So maybe I want the units, maybe I want that font to be 0.5 tall. Now my letters are a lot taller on that. I can also change the spacing ratio within that. So you have a lot of power on your text. And some texts are going to allow you to extrude them out, do things that maybe you can't do with other text features. So text is going to be a nice feature in this sketch command. Now the one that we need to see is I have a lot of lines on here, and some of them I may not want. Maybe I want to get rid of this portion of the line from here to here, and I want it to be trimmed off right here. There is a command called trim entities. And if I hit trim entities, it's going to come up with several different options, and I think the most powerful option is just using trim option. And what I'm going to do is come in here, and I'm just going to hold my mouse down and pull across there. You notice it trimmed that line. I'm still holding the mouse button. If I come back up to that red dot, okay, well, if I can come back across it there, the line is going to come back. So maybe I wanted that one off. Oops, no, I didn't want that. So I can come back across, and it redrew that line. So you can undo an entity. So I'm going to trim this off. I just pick, trim that off, and I can trim that off, and now those lines are trimmed, and they're constrained with relationships in the sketch that this is touching in that point, and this is touching this point on that line. So power trim is really powerful. You can trim and untrim things directly on that. You can also extend things. If you notice, if I want to extend something maybe to this line, I can come over here and hit that, and that line is extending off over there as I go. We'll go over convert entities more later on. Offset is going to be nice. Maybe I want to offset this sketch line right here at some distance. It's going to let me have the ability to offset that at some distance. I can offset any line or entity just by using offset on there. If I want to mirror something, okay, I've drawn all this nice mess and I want to mirror it, well, maybe I draw a center line here. And I'm just going to draw a nice little center line right here so that I have something to mirror about. And I could come in here and hit mirror entities. Now it's going to say entities to mirror. I'm going to window all that in, mirror about this line, and you can see that it's coming up there. Do I want to copy or not? Yes, I'm going to do a copy, and I hit enter, and now I have all the relationships of these mirrored about that line. That's going to be a really neat feature on there. So I'm going to undo that because it's a lot of stuff to look at. Let's say that I have a hole on a part, and I would like to see that hole be repeated in some kind of a rectangular pattern. This is where I get to a linear sketch pattern. There's also a circular sketch pattern. If I go linear, it's going to have that object. It's picked. It's telling me the x-axis right here. Okay, so if I increase my distance, you can see the hole is moving over. I can tell it how many times I want to repeat that. So there's 4. And then I might come in here and say that I would like to do some in the y-axis, and I can create multiples in the y and change out those distances as well. And so now I have a 4x2 repetitive array of this, and that's going to be really nice. Now let's say that you don't want to have this circle show up in this array. This is where we have this instances to skip, and now when I click on this, it shows little pink dots here. I can pick that one and it won't show that one. So maybe I didn't want that one and that one for some reason. And if I accept that, now I have those nice little sketches with those 2 instances to skip. Now if I was doing a hole, for example, over here, that's right here, and I want to do about a circle. Maybe I have a point right here, and I'm going to Draw another circle here to here. And let's say that I would like to see this circle around this circle. Again, this might be construction, so I'm going to click on that and turn that to construction. So maybe this is going to be a bolt hole on a bolt hole circle pattern on a part. So if we want to come in and copy this circle around this circle and have multiples of them, we can come in here and say circular sketch pattern. What we're going to do is pull this point right there as our center point. If I can click on that and then grab this point, sorry about that. This point 91 right here, for example. Looking down here, entities to pattern. I'm going to clip on that and grab that circle. And you notice there's 3 yellow plus this one makes 4 repeating features there. If I want to increase that to 5 or 6, I just increase that. I can make them equally spaced. I also have the ability to skip instances. So if I come down here and clip on this, I can say I don't want that one to show up, for example. So maybe I want to not have all of them show up. And that's going to be a nice feature on there. So now I have a rectangular pattern and a circular pattern with some options that we've talked about. So moving entities, if I want to move something, I can come in here and window this in. And I can say from to, so I can say start point from here to here, start point from here, and I can now dynamically move that over to here. So you have a move command in there. You can also copy things. So if I wanted to copy this pattern down here, I could copy these entities right there, and I can say a start point of here, and I now copied those as well. So there's some nice options that you have in here for move and copy. You can rotate, scale, lots of nice features within that. So that is going to be how we would come in and create a sketch. That's a lot of information. I just wanted to show the main things that you're going to have to create a sketch on a plane. You're going to be able to create entities, and we want to define those entities with dimensions and how we can apply tolerances on those dimensions so that they will import into our detailed drawings. We covered briefly how to put text on a sketch. We can do that. We talked about the trim, and the power trim is really important. We talked about you can just hold, click, and then just cursor over everything you want off. If you accidentally miss one, just go back and undo it, and that's going to bring it back. We talked about the offset entities in here, and that's going to be real powerful. And we also talked about how to mirror and rectangular patterns, circular patterns. We talked about how to move and copy, and those are going to be really, really important features for us. And we can always close out that sketch, and it's going to be in here. Notice I got a minus because I got a lot of things not dimensioned. So this is just a lot of junk on there, and that's all we wanted to do in this session was to show how to do a sketch.